Stewart Copeland, Dr. George Jacob, great to have you both here. Stewart, quick question. What made you want to perform at COP28?
Well, it's a no-brainer, really. I want to save the world. Actually, that too. I wanted to come to Dubai. Dubai is one of the most fascinating cities in the world. I was here maybe 10 years ago, and none of this was here. So it's a combination of a humble ambition to make the world a better place and to play Dubai.
So what makes performing at something like COP20 different in the sense of the kind of reach you can have there and the way you can get the message out?
Well, the clientele is different. When I play with the Atlanta Symphony, I have normal people who like music. When I play here, I'm playing for world leaders. Not that I have anything political to say, but it's kind of cool to be, as the Beatles used to say, all the people down here throw money, the people up there just rattle your jewelry.
I was going to ask you, you were referring to your musical collaboration with the climate activist Ricky Cage.
Yes.
Where you said, I don't have ambitions to save the planet, that's Ricky's job.
Yes.
I'm just a musician. So, but you're obviously surrounded by eco-warriors here.
Yes.
How does that relate to what you want?
It makes me feel guilty and irresponsible since I'm not out eco-warrioring like everybody else. I just play music. But fortunately, I have friends like Ricky Cage, Ambassador for Peace, who is taking care of all that on not just my behalf, but all of our behalf.
But let me ask you though, do you feel there is a pressure on celebrities, and whether they be movies, stars or musicians, to actually take up causes such as the environment or human rights or anything like that?
Yes, but I prefer it when it's done quietly, when it's done with contributions and so on. But speaking out, I've discovered from watching my peers speak out on issues, nobody believes them. It just annoys people when artists who are really good at playing guitar or banging drums start spouting off on political issues. It's not persuasive, and so I generally keep my mouth shut in public, but support behind the scenes with contributions and so on. So I think artists should mostly be seen and not heard. That's my own personal view.
We'll get back onto that, but I want to bring in Dr.
See, here's
George
an actual expert
well,
who
that's,
knows
yeah.
what he's talking about.
So
Please save the planet. Four.
So George, actually, yeah, that's right. So you are President and CEO of the Bay Ecotarium, which is sponsoring the concert, actually. And I should point out the Bay Ecotarium is a unique project that's devoted to protecting ocean life around the San Francisco Bay. What are the specific aspects of what you're doing when it comes to the ocean and the Bay Area?
So the San Francisco Bay has its own ecosystem. And the aquarium has been there for many decades, and it pulls the water from the ocean. And we have 24,000 animals and 1 million gallons of salt water. So the ocean is actually a lens that we can actually look at for pollution, for domoic acid. It's a microcosm that we can experiment in. So when we decided to turn the aquarium into the world's biggest climate museum, we thought that we should think about the emotional aspect, the empathy associated with protecting the planet. And music is that instrument for empathy. So we thought that when COP28 comes about, we should do a climate concert focused on using music as a lever.
In effect, you're preaching to the converted to some degree, those who are at COP. How do you reach to those beyond?
So that exactly is the point of creating the Climate Museum. Conferences like COP, there are so many conferences every year, about 3,000 a year, in big and small conferences with thousands of delegates. Most of the delegates are already evangelized, so they know about the climate crisis. But what about the people on the ground? So for them, we thought that climate literacy is key. If you have a literate and aware audience, you have informed action.
So how do you answer the skeptics who say that gatherings like COP tend to be big on platitudes but low on real outcomes? Lots of big promises but very little results.
I think promises are the first step to actually looking at results. So if there is a commitment for money, for resources, political will, those are the first steps that are required to eventually translate into precipitous action which is sustainable.
And Stuart, your performance for COP is your album Police Deranged. Lovely name, by the way, because you've basically deconstructed it or reconstructed it for orchestral composition. And I wonder, when it comes to that, you have rearranging of songs such as Message in a Bottle. How can you cater to both those existing fans who know the original and those who are the new generation looking for the difference?
At first, I thought they would be coming after me with pitchforks. But it turns out that people rather enjoy it because they know the song. There's enough of the original song so that they recognize it. But then there are departures, which are very police-ish because they derive from improvisations we did on stage, and they, it's all Andy, Sting, and me, but in a different form. So it's. I hope that I've got the right balance of new and familiar.
And talking of balance, George, you always say that art and science are kind of synonymous. In what way?
So I think the common denominator is exploration, discovery, understanding the magic of how the universe works. So unless everything is in resonance, you have discord and dissonance, and that's where we are today. And the concept is named resonance for that reason.
How do you regard that view, Stewart?
Well, I think that musicians and artists have it a lot easier because we don't have to conform to the rules of physics. We can just make stuff up. And I'm sure most scientists who are investigating, exploring the world of, the atomic world, chemistry, is they probably wish they could just make it up the way we do.
Well, here's something for you both, perhaps starting with you, Stewart. In what way, if at all, do you feel that music connects us as a species to the earth? I mean, playing different instruments from different countries, from different cultures.
Well, I'm not so sure about the plant, but it gives us a greater connection with each other. What is music? Why does Homo sapiens do music? And it's about bonding. It's about social cohesion. And archaeologists theorize that because Homo sapiens had music, we found 40,000-year-old instruments, but Neanderthal didn't, that humans were more bonded and had larger groups and could thereby, 20 Homo sapiens could throw those 5 Neanderthals out of the tree. So music combines humanity. Not so sure how it affects the planet.
Well, George, of course, the fact is you've got 70% of the planet covered in water anyway, so there's a common connection between cultures. How do you regard that balance between the way music from around the world can bring together people?
So they say that there is only one ocean. So all the continents are this family that live on that one ocean. And music is that force that transcends linguistic boundary, the geopolitical boundaries. Everybody resonates with it, everybody understands it. It's in us. We are born with a certain rhythm. And I think if we can find that right pitch, we get the right amplitude for the right action.
And you said rhythm, so of course, do drummers have a special place since they're the keepers of the rhythm?
Oh, absolutely. We are the primal force. Here's the theory, which I just made up. See, tonight we're going to play or tomorrow night we're going to play a show before all the world leaders. And if they really like the music, they go, oh man, I'm loving this. Let's go put another $1 billion into conservation.
I want to ask you something about the kind of work you've started doing after the police. Obviously, one of the big mainstays for you was musical scores. You kind of taught yourself, I guess, in orchestral composition, and did so many movies. One of them being my favorite, Rumblefish, with Francis Ford Coppola. How did that the demands of writing for film change the way you worked, the way you saw things?
Well, I humbly submit that the film composer, who's not even an artist, he's a craftsman serving the director, who is the artist. But as an employee, I've learned that I've been forced to learn more things than I ever. If I was just an artist following my instinct, I'd be real good at playing drums and guitar maybe. But since my first film with Francis Ford Coppola, he says, we need strings. As an employee, I had to go and learn orchestration. So I learned from selling out to the man. I learned all kinds of things. The main thing being about how to work with orchestra. And I don't do that anymore. Now I'm back to being an artist, having learned what I learned as a professional.
It's interesting, as I want to touch on the subject of technology, and George, AI, of course, has started to take a much bigger place in our lives. And I wonder how you use AI, or how AI is functioning in a positive way for you in the work you do.
So AI definitely gleans out certain search engines and curates content. So there is that purpose of AI, and can pitch itself to 8th grade, 10th grade, college level, doctoral level, and so on and so forth. So AI has that ability to scale. But the new wave of AI, which is the emotional AI, EAI, is going to be critical in the empathy that we'll have in the exhibit experiences in the future.
And AI, of course, has positives and negatives. Stuart, to what extent do you feel that AI is a risk to musicians?
Not really. It hasn't hit yet. But I think it's more exciting to watch me banging stuff than it is to watch a computer screen.
Well, interestingly enough, the music that you're playing at COP is basically being rediscovered by generations, or different generations now. And if you look at bands like ABBA and now KISS, they've kind of not only ensured their music lives on, but their performances live on through these avatars. Any interest in having something like that for the police?
Well, for young musicians, it's a threat. For old retirees like me, hey, let the AI go out there and play, Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, while I get to stay home and watch it all on TV.
No more tour buses, but are you happy with the idea of an avatar of yourself being the symbol now of what you are?
I look forward to that day. Just as long as it has the right number of fingers.
I do have to ask you though, that I heard you in an interview say that music is best when it comes from the heart rather than the brain. And yet you're known to be very innovative and incorporate a lot of technology in the work you did. To what degree does the technology aspect of, take you away from the heart and towards the brain when you compose or when you...
Well, the brain and the heart work together. And I wouldn't be where I am composing if it weren't for computers. Because the computer unlocks the door of what you can imagine and you can create it. And you can get the machine to play it for you. I've been using artificial intelligence of a kind. The intelligence is mine, but the artificial, I can tell the computer what to play and it'll play it perfectly. Now the computer's not listening to me, perhaps it's making music up for itself. I've had my run. My kids are all out of college. I'm ready for the machines to take over.
And George, of course, the kind of technology that's developed in recent years gives you a much bigger idea of the problem and the potential solutions. To what degree are those harmonizing, that you now know what the main problems are and how to work with technology to improve that situation?
So there are 3 or 4 ways in which it can play out. One is scenario building. So once you control all the variables that focus on global warming or GHG gas emissions and so on and so forth, you can actually extrapolate it 50, 60, 100 years from now. And that can dictate policy, inform policy decisions. That's number one. Number two is technology is also allowing us to create avatars and move in 3D spaces and also look at the price of inaction. If we don't act, what's the cost going to be and what's the impact going to be? So from both sides, I think the play is very good.
As we wrap up, I know, Stuart, you love spending time with your grandchildren. You're very much a family person. To use a police cliche, and I'm sorry for that, if you had to send a message in a bottle to future generations, for their generations, and what would it be?
Oh my goodness gracious, follow your dreams, find something you like doing. Maybe if AI and technology takes care of all the mundane tasks, that humanity will be able to develop spiritually instead of mechanically.
And George, what would your message in a bottle be?
Follow your passions, don't be afraid of failures. That'll create more invention.
And thank you for looking after the planet, I hope. By then.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks.
Thank you.